Gold participants and listeners from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC for Gold Learning. And I'm here today chatting with Dr. Carmela Kika Baeza about her upcoming presentation. Welcome, Kika.
Hello, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much for being available to us and chatting a little bit about your upcoming presentation that you have here at Gold. And the title of your presentation is Getting Milk Production Off to a Good Start, right?
That is correct. It's a very, very important topic, I think.
Very important topic, and I can't wait to get to listen to it actually once we have it here at Gold. And we want to talk about a little bit about it. But before we do so, tell our listeners where in the world you are located. We have an international audience, so it's always nice to know where our speakers are located, so we get a little bit of a picture where you are in the world.
Yes, definitely. I'm currently in a very small village called Galapagar, right next to Madrid, the capital of Spain. I live out here and I'm now seeing beautiful full of flowers.
Oh, how wonderful. So spring has begun in Spain, is that correct? We have it March now, just for our listeners as a reference.
Yes, it's now the middle of March and spring has here. It's a very sunny, beautiful spring day.
Oh, wonderful. So you would say you live more in a rural area, right next to close to Madrid. So wonderful. So we get a little bit of a picture where you are, so it's always nice to know that. So now let's talk about your background a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your professional background, what you're up to, and maybe a little bit share a little bit about your personal life as well, if you don't mind.
Yes, I'd love to. Originally, I'm a family physician. I didn't actually fall in love with breast until my first child was born, which is what frequently happens with many of us. And then I discovered I had no idea about breastfeeding, and that made me take my first steps into this wonderful, amazing world of being a lactation consultant. And I was one of the first IBCLCs in Spain. So I had the privilege to meet all the new ones as they come along and to become president of the IBCLC Association here in Spain. And also that gave me time to offer classes and courses for other professionals here in Spain who were like I was, no clue about breastfeeding. So it's been a beautiful journey actually these last 15, 20 years. Really beautiful.
And you have a very impressive background. You also, not only you're a family physician, you're training healthcare providers, doctors and nurses, right, about breastfeeding, and you also published a book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yes, the book is called in English. It would be translated to Love with Open Arms, and it's kind of mixed between a parenting book and a basic breastfeeding book. But what I try to do is like translate the science into language and so they can focus on the best care for their babies, but knowing that it's evidence-based and it's great for the whole family.
How wonderful. Evidence-based. That's something I really like to hear because it really is a good foundation for families then to choose what is the right care based on evidence-based information and not just hearsay or, what other people tell them. This is a reliable source for new parents to, or not only new parents, I assume for people who already had a baby, to get information and as a reliable source and move forward with their parenting and use that book for that. That's amazing. And you said the English title is To Love with Open Arms. Is that book available in English or at this time only in Spanish?
Well, at this time it's only in Spanish, but hey, if anybody wants me to translate it, I would love to.
That would be wonderful. I think many families around the world could benefit from that information. And then also on top of that, on top of everything else, you also homeschool your 4 children. How do you even have time for that?
Well, fortunately, the myths about homeschooling and that children teach themselves, they're pretty much true. So I just nudge them along. And then, we have the good days and the bad days, and that's the real life.
Yes. So I'm located here in the United States where homeschooling is relatively, well known. However, in Europe, not so much. Is there a big homeschooling community in Spain?
Well, when we began 15 years ago now, no, we were just a small bunch of crazy people, but now fortunately the larger.
That is wonderful. So now to the title of your presentation, Getting Milk Production Off to a Good Start. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I think my main focus on this is that as a lactation consultant, what I usually get, at least from mothers in particular, who already have a low milk and they come for the consultation. And my whole point is, why do we have to get to a low milk production? What can we do so that we don't get there, so that mothers have, the milk production that they can have, which is usually a good production. So what strategies can we implement, and what's been proven to work, so we can help, breastfeeding to go as it should be, and not have to make repairs, as days go by.
I absolutely love that because I think once you're getting an milk production off to a good start, you are at an advantage. I also believe like if problems develop later on, right? I think to me it sounds like if you have your milk supply, milk production off, if that is off to a good start, if something happens later on during, due to sickness or anything else happening, it should be. Do you think it's easier then to address those problems?
Yes, it definitely is. Actually, web pages and other, you can read what people usually say is that mothers give up breastfeeding because, and it is true that many mothers feel pain, and that's something else that should be worked on. But the main reason that mothers stop breastfeeding is when they feel that they're not making enough milk. A mother, a lot of pain if
Mm, mm,
if her baby is gaining weight. But if he's not gaining weight,
right.
or she feels she's not eating enough, then she will stop.
Right. And that seems like a very common concern that I think I hardly know any mother who's not worried that she is producing enough milk, right? Isn't that true?
Yes, as you will see in the presentation, it's very that's what we most commonly see in mothers, this very intense need to be sure that their babies.
Where do you think this comes from? Are we not trusting our bodies anymore, or has this been a consistent problems over the year? What have you seen? Is this more like a problem you see more recent, or has it been like always that women always were concerned? Because I feel like, in the so-called, as my daughters would say, olden days where, women were only breastfeeding because, formula wasn't available. I don't think everybody was so worried about it because that was the normal thing to do. Now that we have formula, people and bottle feeding, maybe people see how much of the amount of the formula goes into the baby because they can see the bottle, right? But with breastfeeding, you don't have that. Do you think this question of do I have enough milk is a modern problem?
Actually, maybe what's modern is the way of looking at it, but I think that the
Hmm.
need to know that my baby's eating enough is deeply ingrained in the mammal brain, because we need our
Right.
babies to thrive, to be fat and healthy, and the more fat they have, the more they will be protected against illnesses or against, diarrhea or anything that can make my baby lose weight.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And before I let you go, what do you hope our delegates will take away from this presentation?
Like, excuse me, I didn't understand the last.
Oh, yes, I repeat that, no problem. What are you hoping the delegates will learn from this presentation?
Well, I'm hoping they'll take away some very simple, manageable, and doable strategies to get milk productions off to a good start, to prevent not only actual low milk supply, but to help mothers perceive that they have an excellent milk supply and that their breastfeeding is going along really well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kika, for sitting down here with me today and chatting about what you are up to in Spain and your work there, and of course, the presentation here with us at Gold.
Thank you for having me. Thank you again.
And now to our listeners here, if you would like to know more about this presentation, Getting Milk Production Off to a Good Start, this presentation is part of the Focus on Foundation Lecture Pack by Gold Learning. You can find out more about this presentation and the other presentations in the lecture pack. I highly recommend to check it out at goldlearning.com. Thank you everyone for listening here. Bye-bye.